Officially. Well, thank
Hey,
you,
Matt.
everybody. Yeah.
If real quick, just housekeeping before we get starting, if that's okay, if I can take the microphone for just a
100%.
minute.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think everyone should unmute. And
No.
Matt, happy birthday, kiddo. On the count of 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday, dear Matt.
Barton.
Happy birthday to you.
That was something special. You know, the only thing that would have made it better is if you all could have done it in your Marilyn Monroe voice.
Oh.
Years ago,
that's for next.
Years ago, we had an agent that is still friends of ours. He's not at the brokerage, Aaron Oldham, and he's quite a character if you know him. And he left me a voicemail singing his best impression of Marilyn Monroe's "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." I still have that, and someday I may just share it with you. All right, let's get underway. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Matt.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. A lot of good things I want to cover today, but really quickly, just want to start off to see if anybody had either any wins or any interesting experiences over the past 2 weeks. Ready, go.
I have so many.
Oh, I had a home inspector inspect the wrong home.
Question, how did he get into the wrong home? I mean, how did the people even let him in? Like, you just want to do a random inspection of my house?
Ironically, the house next door was for sale as well. And the sellers just happened to be out. And he went in, did his inspection. We show up at the other house. And he's like, I'm over here. We're like, yeah, that's not the house we're under contract on.
Oh my gosh, that's freaking awesome.
It was not my recommended inspector, just FYI.
Tell me he's not one of our approved vendors. Okay, good.
No.
All right. Giselle?
Yes, I ended up getting a property that was not listed that I've been watching for years. I used Forewarn and spent about a week investigating who actually owned this property. I thought it was going to be in probate. I just had to figure out who owned it and got a hold of them, had great conversations with them, and was able to double side just under $1 million property that, like, tons of other developers have been trying to buy it. But I was able to get my investor to buy it, and we went under contract late last night at like 10 o'clock.
Wow.
For you.
That's how Forewarn works, everybody. It's amazing.
Yeah, if you don't know what she's talking about, most of the associations, I don't know if all of them do, but give you a reduced fee subscription to Forewarn, which is basically a background app. It gives you cell phone numbers. It gives you even the cars people have owned or currently drive, their previous addresses. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to use it. I use it when I'm having to deal with a, what shall we call them? An unhinged client of one of our agents. It's kind of nice to get some background on them. And it is fun. It's kind of like the National Enquirer. You get to see their criminal record as well. So that's fun. So yeah, I've looked you all up. Don't worry. I won't tell anybody. All right. Any other wins? Interesting experiences? Can only see half of you, so if you got your hand raised, just blurt out. And Dee, I just have to tell you, that's really bold of you to wear that hat. Is this the year? Is this the year they're going to come back and be something of reckoning?
This is it. We actually had the opportunity to go to Jackson Dart's draft party Thursday.
That's awesome. In case you don't know, Jackson Dart was drafted, and he is a Corner Canyon quarterback. He actually went to USC, and my college team of all college teams, and then transferred to
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, and did quite well at Ole Miss. So looking forward to better days for the Giants, because they've not had a good run lately.
Yeah, I hope it was a good move for him. But it was a fun night. It was pretty incredible.
That's awesome.
I was at Shedeur Sanders' watch party.
Yes,
It wasn't as fun.
Oh, dude, let's not go there because I could talk the rest of this meeting about that whole debacle. But all right, let's get underway. We have been talking about a number of things. Oh, thank you for the cakes. That's awesome. So we've been talking about a number of things in the REPC, and we're now to what I wanted to talk about quite a bit was Section 8, right? I think last time we talked about I think I told you the dialogue that you should all know, right? Which is I'm going to do a brief rehearsal of it. In 2009, the DRE changed the REPC. Giselle, I'm going to pick on you. Prior to 2009, what was the seller responsible for in the REPC?
Not the commissions.
They had implied warranties, right? They had to guarantee the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, right? They had all of these things that the seller was responsible for, and it fundamentally changed in 2009 with the new REPC at the time, which is substantially the same REPC we have today, minus the commission things that changed last year. And the trade-off to that was Section 8, right? We have 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, which are, since the buyer was now going to be responsible for buying the property as is, the seller was off hook for any implied warranties of any kind. The DRE gave the buyers some pretty ironclad exits to the REPC, right? So they are, come on, rattle them off. Due diligence,
Title insurance, HOA docs.
as far as exits to the contract.
Oh, sorry.
So you got your due diligence.
And your second due diligence, which is a fake due diligence, but
Bill, you're so
Financing
difficult.
and appraisal.
Financing and appraisal, which frankly, next time they do the REPC, I wish they'd give them their own dates, not combine the two dates together, right? So there's one date for that, but there's two conditions that they can exit, right? And really quickly, the due diligence and the financing use a very interesting legal term, contractual term. At the buyer's what?
Sole
Discretion.
Sole discretion. Super powerful. Basically means it can't be challenged. And that's kind of where we left things off on our last session. Here's my question to you. And we started to get into this, but I don't think we had enough time to really talk about it. And it's what I'd like to spend a chunk on today, which is what's your framework? How are you negotiating? What is your approach when things go off the rails, whether it's due diligence, whether it's appraisal, or whether it's financing? So any one of those scenarios. So any experiences, successful experiences that you've had in dealing with any one of those three issues. Love to hear it. Otherwise you just have to listen to me blather on.
2 days ago or 3 days ago.
Okay.
My appraisal came in $18,000 low.
That's not uncommon, right, Bill? I mean, we don't like it, but it happens.
Right.
So how did you handle it?
Thank goodness I prepared him way ahead of time. I'm like, yeah, we'll work to get this, but it might be a struggle. And he wanted to sleep on it and he was okay with it. But we did have them reduce the closing costs that we agreed to contribute. Because it's an own in Ogden. The guy doesn't have any money, zero down, not a whole lot of options other than that.
Okay. Wow, you used the P word, which frankly, I wish more agents spent more time with the P word, which is prepare. And what does that look like? I mean, it's a big umbrella. We can cram a lot of things under, but what do you talk about when you prepare? I want to get nitty gritty here, guys. I'm going to get a lot of questions in today because I want us to really get down to brass tacks on this.
For me, I just told him, look, I think I can get a buyer to pay this price, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get an appraiser to bite off on it. So unless it's a cash offer, just be prepared that when that time arises, we're kind of crossing our fingers.
Okay. So there's some preparation, a little bit of legitimate fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? Also known as FUD in the world of Microsoft. Okay. What else do we do to prepare for tough situations? I hope you hit the key one that I want somebody to say, but I'm not going to give it to you.
I think communication's huge. I had solar panels on a purchase last year that on the MLS, the agent had stated the rate was at 1%. Well, she didn't look into what that transfer rate would go up. That goes up 5%. So we're looking at 6%, and it was 3 days before finance and appraisal. And I was doing my work as quickly as I could, but we were tied against that deadline. I told her it wouldn't work for my clients to take that on because of the additional $386 payment or whatever it was. And they ended up paying the $45,000 at closing, paid them off. So it was a huge win for us. But it was communication and treating it with respect on both sides.
There's the key at the tail end. That's what I was hoping for, right? I think all of you, as I look on the screen here, have had experiences where the agent on the other side or their client or both on the other side react emotionally, illogically, passionately. And unfortunately, wouldn't it be nice if everybody was an adult in the room? But we're in a business where that's not always the case. And in fact, since the stakes are so high because the dollar value is high, it tends to push people to often to a less rational, emotionally detached way to solve things. What is that? Just my experience, or have you guys had some similar experiences? Yeah. And so it begs the question of us, and that's why I keep asking this question. So what do you do to prepare when somebody you think is going to be that way or has already exhibited that way, and you still have an issue to address? Right? There's Dee, you said a key word, respect, for sure. But communication is huge, and I would add a descriptor to it: sophisticated or good communication, because communication could be yelling at you and throwing expletives. I'm still communicating, but it's not terribly effective, right? And so the real question for us is how do you get that balance, right? How do you set yourself up so prior to those conversations or as they're unfolding in real time, you remind yourself to be the adult in the room, right? What's that line from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with what's her name, Violet Beauregard? Eye on the prize, Violet. Eye on the prize. Come on, you guys don't remember that? All right, just visualize that, right? Eye on the prize, Violet. Anytime you're entering one of these situations, what is the prize? I think it's important. What's the prize?
Closing.
Giselle, then Deborah.
Oh, I was just gonna say something, and she's probably not on this call, but Madison Smith, down in St. George, her and I are teaming up on a listing down there, and she said probably one of the most effective sentences to me last week that I thought, I'm going to use that all the time. And she said, because it's not going to be a high yielding deal for probably either of us, but she said, look, I'm in this for the outcome, not the income. And isn't that golden?
That is a great line.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe she learned that from Donna. I don't know. But anyway, I think if everybody has that mindset, it's like, you know what? It doesn't need to be I mean, yes, we want to get the closing table to get paid, but also what is the outcome going to be? Is it going to be that we kept our relationships intact with all of the parties involved? Because I can tell you from personal experience, relationships is the very best marketing that you can do. So keep it up. Wait,
let that just hang in the air for a minute. Relationships are the best marketing you can ever invest in. And Giselle, thank you for saying that, because I 100% agree. There's all kinds of coaching, there's all kinds of tactics, there's all kinds of things that sometimes ignore that. But oh man, you are swimming upriver if you neglect the relationships, right? I mean, when you look at these tough situations, depending on how you navigate, and I get it, you're only a part of the equation, but if you exhibit leadership, I mean, true leadership, and take the edge off things and don't take the bait when somebody reacts emotionally and come back to being sane, much like you just said, the outcome versus the income. I mean, that's a great line to just keep cycling in your head to remind you of where you should be going and the leadership that you should exhibit. right? So one of the things, and I'm going to now play marriage counselor or couples counselor or whatever you want to call it. Any of you that are old enough and had therapy or whatever else, you'll learn some key things, and they tend to center around communications and relationships, right? And one of those is people want to be heard, right? They want to be heard. In fact, that's why they react emotionally sometimes and are a little over the top, because they're trying to drive a point home to let you understand that they're less than happy, they're upset about the situation. So if that's the backdrop, and I was to come back at you with starting with this word, well, where are we going? Well, we're in a fight. We're going to argue, and there's high degree probability that we're not going to get any traction. So don't start either literally with or figuratively with that attitude, that word, that approach. Well, here comes my return fire salvo back at you. Instead, if you can concentrate on, and sometimes it's hard, honestly, understand who's saying this. I've done the principal broker thing for nearly 2 decades, and I've had a lot of rough conversations. And so I'm not in my ivory tower when I say this. You have to take a breath, right? And maybe 2. But believe it or not, that's literally a thing. Take a breath. If you do that and you have some preset things in your mind of how you're going to approach, and the things that remind you, outcome versus income is a good example, then it's a lot easier to go back if Josh Bingham's on the other side of this and he was a little agitated. I always say that, Josh, because you never get agitated. You're very balanced. But if I were to turn around and say, now think of the well approach. Well versus, hey, Josh, honestly, thank you for sharing that. You feel the difference? I mean, and it will not solve everything, but it's just a general approach. It's a mindset. Josh, if I were to say that to you, hey, thank you for sharing that, right? I haven't committed to anything. I haven't bought into your argument. I'm just thanking you for, do you feel like you have to keep driving the point home to me after I say that?
No, because I felt like I've been heard.
Right. Have we resolved the issue?
No, not necessarily.
Not even remotely close.
Yeah.
But here's my proposition to you, all of you on the call. Would you rather start on that footing where the temperature came down a few degrees and notches, or would you like to start it by inflating the temperature 3 or 4 degrees? Obviously, it's a rhetorical question. So I guess my point to you is, make sure you have some visual, mental cues, reminders, whatever, to acknowledge the person, right? One of the things I hate hearing in some coaching curriculum is, well, what I hear you saying, Josh, is blah, 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 which just, our filters are so sensitive to insincere platitudes, being gamed, being, contrived, whatever. So make sure it's authentic. And that's not hard to do if you just stop and think for a second. Josh, seriously, thank you. I'm sure that was tough to say. We are in a tough situation, but I got to hand it to you. I don't always have somebody that will actually even communicate what's really going on. Now we're starting somewhere where there's potentially a solution. Okay.
Matt, this is James.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
I've mentioned before with inspections and issues, I try and provide information, but I won't let clients typically make any decisions or responses until after they've slept on it. The other thing,
if you have that luxury, right?
Well, if you can, and with an inspection, you can usually do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, Matt, you've met my son. I have a son with autism, and he completely absorbs whatever your energy is, whatever your anxiety is. And I don't think that's different than anybody else. I think he just exhibits it openly. And my point is, it's up to us to either escalate or de-escalate it. It's that energy is so easily absorbed either way by our clients.
What's the saying? You get what you put out, typically, right? Now listen, I'm going to surrender for the sake of this argument. I'm going to spitball a number here. 5% of the population that will just be irrational. Doesn't matter how good our approach is, whatever it is, they're going to be irrational. And you just have to know that and still be okay with it and be like, wow. Anybody read that book by Mel, what's her name? Mel Robbins, Let Them? I've mentioned that before. It's a great book, right? Do you control how they feel? No. So if they're going to be a jackhole, unfortunately, let them be a jackhole. You still stay balanced, grounded, open to providing a solution. That's what you control. That's the let you versus the let them. All right. Having said all of that, now that's the feel good part of today. Those are the things that are kind of high level general approaches, but there are some contractual things we probably will need to and are required to, because of our fiduciaries, to address. How we do it and the approach we do it with will largely determine our success. So let's ratchet this up a notch. Joyce, I'm going to use you as my scapegoat. You're the agent on the other side, and I'm the ornery agent. You're the good agent. I'm the ornery agent. And I mean, like, whatever the situation, I'm trying to think of a good situation. It's a due diligence item. It's your people were supposed to do something. They didn't do it. We're getting down to the wire. And I fire off at you. Well, that is just bull crap, Joyce. If your people don't get in line, they're going to get sued.
Okay.
Wow. Anybody had that one? Dan, have you had that one? Raise your hand. Come on. Yeah. It's not uncommon. Thankfully, it's not too common. But what do you do with that?
Well, I just had an experience. It wasn't real estate related, but it was less than a week ago. Several people were present as a crotchety Karen ripped into me.
Whoa. Wait a minute. A crotchety
So-
Karen. Did you trademark that? Because I think you should. A crotchety Karen.
Well, yeah, she was going off on an issue, and there were several people who witnessed it, and a few minutes after it ended, they said to me, "That was just amazing, Joyce. You continued to keep a pleasant look on your face. You let her say what she had to say, and then you gently guided her around the whole topic as to why this event had occurred. And it left her just kind of saying, well, oh, whatever." I think that anytime but I felt like I had not sunk to her level and I had held my ground. And I know that when I've had difficult situations in real estate, I often will try to compliment the person who is coming at me. I will say something like, this is really an important issue, and I understand that you feel strongly or passionately about this. I know you are a good agent, as am I, and I'm sure we can figure out a resolution.
Oh, hey.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
And I turn it back on them before I even try to counter. I just say, what are your thoughts? Or how do you think we could best resolve this? And they're all ready to go on with their next yeah, but they have to stop and kind of say, well, how about if your people did this?
Oh, so
And
the
I
conversation actually starts at that point, and the emotions. I love how you definitely couple the compliment with the assumed close, and the assumed close is, I'm sure we can come up with something.
right.
That's actually kind of brilliant, because you think about it, I'm then in the position of like, what am I going to do? Because you've coupled two things together. If I argue against what you just said, I'm also arguing against me being a good agent. Most people don't want to say, no, I'm not. I'm a jackhole.
Yeah. Well,
and so you force them into some level of common ground, but doing it in a very polite way. I love it.
Yeah, I just, instead of rebutting, and of course we have to hold the ground, but
Yeah.
instead of rebutting, because they are already inhaling, ready to say yes, but, so instead of rebutting, I ask them how they see a resolution. And they're not expecting that, but it generally requires them to take a breath and think for a second, because they're not preparing their next argumentative statement, I'm opening, I believe, the opportunity for them to help solve it.
I am going to ask Erin Mailer if she's paying attention to chime in on this, because if you don't know this, Erin Mailer does. She's actually been done here at our PG office. She does some breathworks classes. I did one that she did in Kauai of all places. It was awesome. But the value of breathing to our mental capacity. What can you add to that, Erin? Or not? I would say this.
Can I just jump in
Oh,
really
wait,
quick?
she's here. She's literally at my door. She's making a personal appearance. Come on in.
I don't have video and I can't.
That's okay. You're on
speak
video
on
now.
my computer, so
Yeah.
I'm just in conflict resolution.
Just, I mean, what is the advantage to getting oxygen to the brain in dealing with your emotions?
Taking a few deep breaths. Well, you activate your parasympathetic system. So, like, you have to think of fight or flight mode.
Yep.
When
Also known as the amygdala, right?
The amygdala, yes. So when your body is designed to survive. And so when you're faced with a stressful situation, your body is designed to keep you safe. And so when you start to take short breaths because you're stressed out, it's a reaction, and it's literally sending a signal to your brain like, we're in danger, we're in danger, we're in danger. So when you take deep breaths, when you pause, so the first thing, pause, and just take deep breaths, you signal to your brain, false alarm, everything is fine, I'm okay, we're safe, and it calms your brain down. You rewire it in that instant to calm yourself down.
So you can actually tap into
so that
your
you can actually,
cerebral cortex, your upper
exactly.
thinking. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So honestly, there's a lot of books on this. One of the ones I'm just listened to for the 4th time is Pitch Anything, which is a great book. And he actually goes into the science of this, and he talks about the croc brain, which is the fight or flight. And everything that we do has to go through that filter first.
Absolutely.
And as soon as it feels endangered, threatened, or whatever, it has basically three things: fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
Right. And when you think of what we're dealing with in those situations, the one I just posed when somebody threatens lawsuit, yeah, it's easy to get short breath. But if you can take a breath and just set yourself at ease, the other side tends to see that as well and tends to mimic you, right? There's a whole thing with neuro-linguistic programming. You tend to do what you're observing the person you're interacting with doing as well. So there's actually some science to this, you guys.
So a bunch of other things that I've learned. I've been practicing this one specific skill, which is when I'm faced with something that causes a stress response in me, then I will pause, breathe, and then I think this thought, what a pleasure. So I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, I did an open house for a client who, he's stressed out, and so he's taking his stress out on me.
And not uncommon, right?
It was at the top of Saratoga Springs on the hill, and I had to have like 10 open house signs to get people from the entrance to his house because there's so many turns. And so 2 of the signs that I used at a roundabout were those little directional signs this big. And there just happened to be another agent that Saturday doing an open house with bigger little signs than mine. And they came home and met me in the driveway as I was leaving the open house. He ringed me. Mind you, I had huge A-frame signs like all over the neighborhood. He just laid into me. I've never been in 15 years as disrespected by a client as this guy did, and with his wife standing right there, who was horrified.
Even better,
right?
Yeah, awesome.
That he was speaking to me that way. But because I've been practicing this in the past, Taylor will tell you that I didn't handle it well because I thought about it all day. But in that moment, I paused and I breathed and I thought, what a pleasure. I get to learn how to, I get an opportunity to handle this situation better than I would have in the past. And I listened to him and I apologized. And I said, I'm really sorry that I did not meet your expectations with the signs. Did you notice my other signs? And then I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, John, I promise you that the 2 signs that you didn't like will not keep your house from selling. And I promise you that your house is going to sell. And I just stood up for myself in a very kind, respectful, I listened to him, but I didn't let him steamroll over me, which
You
is
acknowledged you heard.
huge progress for me.
Yeah,
as
right?
You know, Matt.
Yeah.
I wasn't a doormat. I actually stayed the professional and advised in that situation, but I let him speak. I apologized for not meeting his expectations. And then I let him know that the thing he was like dialed in on was not going to keep his home from selling.
Isn't it interesting, right? I mean, for some reason, I think with social media, we get to this place unintentionally a lot of times where we feel like we've always got to fire back, which is rarely the solution to the problem. And just because you apologize doesn't mean you're excusing his behavior. It's really just a way of ratcheting it down a notch, right?
Totally.
It's a way for him to stop having to prove the point that he's upset about the signs. I apologize. It wasn't my intent. I do actually have a lot of other signs. Did you see the other A-frames? And then to your point, now that the croc brain is tapped down where he doesn't feel threatened, where he has to fight or flight anymore because you apologized and then acknowledged what he said, then you're able to use the cerebral cortex, the upper thinking of the brain, and say, but I promise you, it's not going to keep your house from selling. I promise your house is going to sell.
Exactly.
So, good example. Thanks for hustling over here. I'm sorry. I didn't know your video wasn't working.
Well, it's just
Hey, wait a minute before you leave.
Yeah.
So I've heard this before, but I've been researching it online really quick while we've been talking. I can't find it, but there's something different that happens when you exhale versus inhale. Because I think it takes you out of the parasympathetic or something. I don't know. And I thought maybe you might know. But like sometimes when you inhale, it's almost like you're like getting ready to punch them harder. But when you exhale, it's just a gal that has a PhD in psychology and teaches yoga and stuff taught me that a couple years ago.
Well, I'm not as educated as her on the breath, but I will tell you, when we inhale during the breath work that I teach, it's an intentional inhale and a relaxed exhale is how we explain it. So it could be that the inhale is the intention to calm yourself and the exhale is the relaxing, let it go. So I always think like breathe in fresh air and then push out anything I've been hanging on to that I need to let go of, just cleansing. So,
well, you even, to your point, Bill, your point, the short breaths, when you're doing athletics, sports, endurance events, it's one of the things you're taught to be aware of is check the depth of your breath. Because when you breathe shortly, you tense up, your muscles eventually constrict, especially over repeat. And so taking a deep breath actually allows you to relax. So if we transpose that to what we're talking about today, just the act of breathing can get you to relax a little bit.
Well, and you can even think of it as like when we practice, when you go to an intentional breathwork session, what you're really doing is you're increasing the energy in your body. So whatever you believe is inside of you, your spirit, your energy, whatever it is, there's an energy source. Breath gives us life. And so the pace that we breathe at during the day sustains us. But when we need increased energy, you can ramp up your breathing and take intentional inhales and bring in more air, and you're giving yourself more energy. So in those moments of stress, your body's response is to slow down your breathing for survival. But if you do the opposite and you ramp up your breathing, then you give yourself intentional energy. So you can even think of it as like, whew, I need a little bit of extra energy in me for this one right here, and just increase your breathing and do the opposite of
at
what
a
your
bare
body
minimum,
yeah.
increase the oxygen flow to your brain.
Exactly.
Well, Erin, when's your next breathworks course?
It's a week from this Thursday.
Week from this Thursday. See, you had no idea you were going to get this today. If you want to come to a breathworks course, it's here, right?
Yeah.
On Thursday evening?
Thursday evening at 7.
At
Just
7.
text me and I'll send you the link to sign up.
Yeah. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay. So, Joyce, back to our situation. Threatened lawsuit. There are some contractual ramifications when we go litigious, right?
Yes.
Anybody know what those sections are? There's 2 sections predominantly that I'm thinking of. Section 16, which is your remedies, and then the one that gets forgotten. Yes.
Well, I think we should certainly focus ahead of that, section 15, and discuss mediation if we really think we are pressed against a potentially litigious situation.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull it up on screen here because I think this is important. And I want you to think of this in the context of a tough situation, right? Again, much like we were just talking about, apologize. It's unfortunate we're in this situation, and dang it, you better be sincere, right? Because people have a really good barometer for insincere, and in a tough situation, when you're insincere, I promise you it will be inflammatory. It will have the opposite effect of what you want. So to settle down the croc brain so people don't feel like they have to fight, flight, or freeze, make sure it's sincere. It's really unfortunate, Joyce. I'm sorry that we're having this issue. You're a good agent. I'm a good agent. Unfortunately, our clients, our job is to help them see the light of day. Can we take a few minutes and talk through some potentialities in the contract that may be said the right way to both of our clients? They understand that it's in their best interest to come to a resolution. Is that fair to say in a tough situation?
Right.
I think it really is, because a lot of agents get target fixation on being right or wrong versus what is pragmatic and what is best. And to Jachelle's point, the relationships, I promise you, if your clients go the litigious route, you're probably not going to have them in your SOI anymore. Even if you're in the right, the fact that you put them into a situation where they have to litigate, you probably lost them as a client. They may tell you differently till you get through the litigation, but I've just watched it happen over and over and over again. So for us as practitioners, one of the best things we can do is try and get them to some resolution. Okay, so to your point, Joyce, yes, Section 15 is probably one of the most important, mediation, right?
Matt,
And again,
can I just mention, Matt, that I come from an environment in the investment banking world. As soon as somebody threatens a lawsuit, we no longer communicate. It now goes to the attorneys.
Yep. It's not too different for our company, James. I try and be judicious with that. And if this was going on with this, I'd be like, James, listen, I hope that's you speaking and not your client yet, because if they are serious about lawyering up and litigation, we have been instructed that as soon as somebody lawyers up because of the consequences, that our communication stops, and I will give your attorney our attorney's phone number, and now we're going to go the nuclear painful route. So I hope that's not the decision yet. Is it worth us exploring some possible solutions? Always try and bring it back and ratchet it down. You can always go that route. It's never off the table, but it's the worst solution in almost every situation. Go ahead, Joyce.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing up the point that prior to going nuclear and letting the attorneys take it, because then the bills run up very quickly. I did this last year, have for the first time in 33 years, a real potential of a lawsuit. I represented sellers. It was a home they had never lived in. They had spent $100 and some odd thousand remodeling it. The buyer, though, had been out of town. Roofers had stripped off her roof during the course of a once in a 100-year hailstorm that stopped over Linden.
Awesome.
So we pulled news reports and pictures of bulldozers literally on I-15 clearing hail balls off of the freeway in April. And also a neighbor had happened to snap a picture of the house with the entire roofing stripped off and just the wood exposed, no water impervious barrier of any kind, and spent a little time generating with the seller and I collaborating some information, but still took the approach. You were off in Ecuador doing good service. Yet, however, I'm afraid your roofer may have created this situation for you and turn your focus to them for remedy. My people did hire an attorney who also wrote a powerful letter, but I felt like it was still my job as their real estate agent to not just say whatever. These people have entrusted me with 5 previous transactions. And I did help them talk to the other agent. I spoke to them. We presented some information that we felt was very compelling, that this was no longer the seller's responsibility, etc. It seems to have gone away. But I don't think we can just expect people to give us their loyalty and their service and their business. And then if we do run into a glitch, we don't just walk away. We sit with them and help to come to some type of resolution, if at all possible, before people make that final decision to hire attorneys.
Look at ourselves as like real estate contractual physicians, not demolition crews. Okay, so the three sections, we've got roughly 20 minutes. The three sections that I want to focus on, obviously, is mediation, default, and then attorney's fees. Attorney's fees. Now, how we position these things are going to determine, I think, our success in navigating these. But if it gets to, all right, we know what the issue is, and initially both people are kind of entrenched in their position, I think the conversation between two agents should be something like this. Hey, Joyce, I'm gonna steal your line. You are a good egg, and I have enjoyed working with you, and I'm pretty sure that we can still come to a solution. So thank you for working with me. I didn't even ask her. It's the assumptive close. Thank you for working.
I said good agent, not good egg. So
okay, well,
maybe
right.
I misheard you. But yeah.
I did say good egg, but good agent, whatever. Yeah. All right. And then this is where you have to introduce some of the unpleasantness, hopefully in a pleasant way. Hey, Joyce, I know you've done this for a while, but I want to make sure we're on the same page here. If our clients, respectively, can't come to a solution here, obviously the first thing we can leverage is mediation, right? I would hope at a bare minimum we can agree to get you and me out of the spotlight, so it's not some biased opinion we have, but leave it up to an unbiased third party to look at both sides of the equation and come up with a potential solution, right? Because, and then I'm going to just really easily go into section 16, because nobody ever wants to go here. Nobody wants to go to section 16 because feelings get hurt. Your client thinks less of, well, I don't know for sure, but my experience is that our clients think less of us as the professionals, even though we're not the cause of it, but we've allowed a tough situation to arise. And it gets worse when we get into section 16, right? Now let's stop. Section 16 is earnest money, right, as liquidated damages. The second one is keep the earnest money in the trust account and sue for performance. I can't tell you how many times I've had agents tell me nobody ever does that. I can point you to a number of cases where it actually does happen. And there's many attorneys that will tell you, oh yeah, it happens, and it happens more regularly than you think. And then the third one is, oh, forget suing for specific performance. We're just going to come out at you for way more than the earnest money because we have been harmed. And all of those situations are tough, right? And if I'm explaining this to Joyce, I'll be like, I hope you're in the same mindset. I don't want to go here if we can help it. I would love to keep the deal on track, get the sellers what they want, the buyers what they want, you and I get paid, and we can put this, at ease. But it's going to take some work, because if they choose section 16, quite often it invokes section 17, which is probably the most damaging, which is, oh, we're going to get lawyers involved, and whoever the prevailing party is going to get their attorney's fees paid by the non-prevailing side. And that's where it just doesn't need to go here.
And don't you think, Matt, that to bring to their attention that attorneys generally are $300 an hour or more?
Oh, you've got cheap attorneys. They're $400 to $500 minimum now.
Are they? Yeah. And so, factor in, everyone wants to throw that big stick out that they have an attorney, but is the risk and the cost of the attorney any type of reasonable offset to what the actual damages are that we could remedy?
I'm going to go editorial for a minute here, Joyce.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have this luxury in my occupation where I get a lot of people saying, oh, we're going to sue you, we're going to get our attorney, blah, blah, blah. And many, many years of experience has shown to me, demonstrated to me over and over and over again, that most people who say that have never litigated a thing, right? I don't know if they watch too many legal dramas on TV and think this is just so easy. Anybody know what it costs to file in district court? Right. So yeah, small claims goes up to, what is it now? 1,100, 1,500. I can't remember.
It's 15,000. Oh, it's 15,000, I think, is the limit in small
15,000.
claims.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, that covers some things, but it's not a huge amount. But Section 17 still applies. And quite often when you go to small claims, a lot of people lawyer up. So Section 17 is going to come into play even in small claims. But if you go to district court, anybody know what roughly the filing fee is just to submit the paperwork? It's between $3,000 and $4,000 just to submit, right? And then depending on the docket of the court, you may be anywhere from 3 to 6 months out before you have your initial hearings. And then you're going to have depositions, right? And anybody who's done the deposition things, I'm telling you, both parties make up excuses and it gets pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. So this whole process, literally, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, can take a year, 2 years. The longest one I was involved in, which is still going on before I got removed from it, was 3 years. 3 years on $1 million lawsuit. Okay. So the point is when somebody brings this up, well, I'm just going to lawyer up. Don't fire back. Don't take the bait. Do everything you can to pull back that croc brain so they don't feel like they have to fight or flight or freeze anymore. Say, gosh, you know what, Joyce, that would be tragic. That would be tragic if we went that route, because it's going to disrupt your seller's life. It's going to disrupt my buyer's life. Frankly, it's going to disrupt yours and my life. And everybody's going to be unhappy except for who? The attorneys. The attorneys who are going to make bank, right? So yeah. I'm not saying your people can't go there, but please help me. Let's see if we can help not only ourselves, but our clients avoid something that is going to be really not in their best interest, right? Now, remember, 5% of the time, 5%, that's 95% of the time, probably not that way. 5% of the time, they're going to be irrational, like, don't care, don't care, don't care. We're going to lawyer, we're going to sue you, we're going to kick your ass, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Even then, don't take the bait. Right? Well, I want you to know, I don't know if this is emotional reaction. I don't know, but just know the door's open if we can have a more meaningful conversation, because we've gone this route and it's not productive. Okay, if I check back with you in a day, have a conversation with your clients, explain to them that we want to work through this and find an equitable solution. I don't know how to argue against that, an equitable solution. The only way you can argue against is when you're 100% irrational, which is that 5% of the population. But most of the time, you're going to get some traction. I think the point I wanted to make with this is, you know, bare minimum, we can try mediation, okay? And 16 and 17 are, how you position this is like, in that world of this would be terribly unfortunate, but you're going to connect the dots for them. If we go this route, right, somebody's going to prevail. In other words, there's going to be winners and losers, then rather than both of us potentially coming out winners. And whoever loses, it's going to be a double dip on the lose, because they're going to catch attorney's fees as well. So doesn't it make sense for us to try and get some resolution? Now, once you've got that out, right, and you did it in a non-threatening way, but you connected the dots for them, you better have, somebody said it earlier, preparation. You better, and communication, right, Dee? You better have some potential solutions, at least to start talking about. What if? And don't tell them, here's what we're going to do. Don't do that. Human nature is, don't tell me what to do.
That's patronizing.
Patronizing, condescending, male patriarchy. Instead, do it how you would want to be treated, right? If I'm emotionally charged up, if somebody came at me and said, Matt, I get it. I'm not saying I agree with the position, but can I propose something? What if? I promise you, even a fighter guy like me, when somebody comes at me with a, what if we were to do this? Or what if we were to do that? Or third option, what if we did that? It comes down substantially. substantially. Okay. So that preparation and how you're going to communicate it, you don't always have the luxury of having time, but quite often we do. Make sure you've penciled out your game plan. Make sure you've penciled out the options. Make sure you've anticipated some of the objections to those options, right? And be prepared when it doesn't go swimmingly. We're like, no, that's bull crap. Blah, 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 blah. As long as they start pulling away from like litigation type language, you're making progress, right? And don't think you always have to win at the first sit down, right? I could turn around and say, Joyce, you bring up some good points. I haven't anticipated those. Is it okay? That's how I'm always asking permission, because it's non-threatening. It's not because I'm a pushover. I'm a very stalwart guy. I will champion my own cause, but I'm going to say, Joyce, is it okay if I reach out to my clients this afternoon, talk about what you and I talked about, and see if there's additional things we might explore? Unless you're a complete idiot, you're going to say, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I know some of this feels like touchy-feely, and guess what? Yeah, there is some degree of that. But I'm telling you, that is really your best move, is to keep the communication going, start asking questions, and think solutions rather than entrenched litigation, everybody pissed off. Okay? Parker, you had any wonderful experiences with anything like this recently?
Why did you get a call?
No. So I'm assuming that you've gotten better.
No, it's interesting that we're having this conversation. So I've been helping this client who's out of New York. Everything has been through FaceTime. Put them under contract. The furnace and water heater were kind of old, and I said, look, based upon what the inspection says, we may be able to go and negotiate a lower price, but if the inspection says they're in working condition, then that's covered by a home warranty. Got the inspection done. They never called me about any inspection. By the way, the inspection went swimmingly, no problems whatsoever. And including the furnace, water heater, AC. I got a call from him on Saturday. It must be going around, Aaron Mailer, because this guy ripped me a new one about how I promised to get him $20,000 off the price, and that now that the inspection was done, why was he paying me $22,000? And I said, well, you're not paying me anything. The seller is. He goes, yeah, but I could have negotiated a better price. And I go, oh, what it could have, should have. I didn't say that to him, but in my mind, I thought, and so I just quietly sat there and listened to him and let him rip me out a new one while my 4-year-old son was just watching with his jaw dropping and holding his trucks. And then I said, I'm sorry that you feel the way that you do. That must be really frustrating. Certainly that's not the intention through this process. I've tried to make sure that this is a smooth process where you know that you're taken care of. And how would you like to resolve this? And then he said, I'm so angry right now, I'm just going to hang up on you. So he hung up on me, and I haven't heard from him since. We close in like 5 days. So everything is passed. All the deadlines are done. So my question is I've been thinking, do I reach out to this guy, or is this better left just as it is? Because this is literally something that I'm like, he's clearly upset about something. I haven't gotten to the grassroots of what he's upset about. So I'm just trying to figure this all out. So that was my experience this weekend.
Well, so I love that because it's real world, right? And this is kind of in that category where there is no script that gets followed exactly, right? These are concepts and principles to increase the probability of navigating something that's tough. And I would just say on that situation, I like your approach. One, hey, I'm sorry it has gone this way. I feel like, and I think the appropriate thing, Parker, is to be like, hey, listen, I'm not trying to rub salt in or anything like that, but I've communicated all along the way of what we're doing. So how you got to this place where you thought there was $22,000, help me understand that, because all the communication I have and I pride myself on good communication. I don't know where this is coming from, right? And it's not to start an argument, but it's to kind of get him to own his own BS. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes people just throw that out. They're upset, and you know what? And sometimes it's not even your transaction. They've got other things going on in their life that taint it.
Yeah.
And so don't ever take more responsibility on than you need to. Realize, I mean, what's the saying? You know, at least 50% of the people that you're dealing with on a regular basis are going through one of the hardest things they've gone through in their lives. It could be a death in the family, it could be, you know, illness, cancer, job loss, who knows, right? Have a little grace and just be a little more understanding of people and be like, hey, I really am. I'm sorry. I really have tried to do a good job. So all of those things you did, Parker, but at the end, there's that possibility that somebody remains irrational for a period of time and says, I'm just so pissed off, I'm hanging up. And, you know, sometimes it's not the right thing to fire back right away, but I would follow up. I'd be like, hey, listen, I got to tell you, I've been thinking about our interaction the other day, and I can't tell you how much it's kind of bothering me, because I think the world of you. I'm stealing a page from Joyce. I'm going to throw compliments at them, right? And I'm going to say, I think the world of you. And truly, I take it personally that you feel poorly about the job that I did. I hope as we move forward on this, either you can communicate to me and we can get some resolution, or at the end of the day, after some time, you'll realize I really was trying to do a good job, and I am sorry if I fell short. It's not going to resolve it all. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have something. I agree that you definitely need to reach out to him, and just maybe again the line, I'm sorry that you felt that way, and I'm so sorry that we ended. Our phone call ended so abruptly. I'm checking in to see how you're feeling today. I would in no way pat myself on the back. I would not say, I've done all I could do for you. I've done a great job.
Yeah.
I love you. You've been the very best client in the world. But just simply go back and say, hey, George, you know, I am checking in to see how things are with you. We close in 5 days. What else can I do to help this transaction move along? Offer assistance, but do not pat yourself on the back. I don't think that's the way to handle it, because he already knows you've done a great job. My gosh. And he knows he's been a jerk. And so if you go back and say, hey, George, checking in, oh, you know, you were, and you don't even need to say you were upset. We all know he was upset, but maybe just leave it at that. We're 5 days away from settlement. What can I do to assist you?
I like that.
And then see what he says.
I like that. Yeah. You know, it's interesting, Sue.
I have to go get my foot zoned. I gotta go. Bye, everybody.
well,
Thank you. Happy birthday,
I might own something that you could have just to give him a win. I might own something that you could have done different, and maybe it's even, hey, you know, I insulated you from this part of this part of the negotiation. Maybe I should have brought you in, but I was really trying to keep it. I was trying to do my job and keep it from consuming your day. But I think her point about not patting yourself on the back, but I think you could own something that you could have done a little different and maybe give him a little teeny win.
She's not on the call now, so I'm maybe putting words in her mouth, but I think the point she was making was the thing they need to hear is that you're checking in on them. You're still the professional. And I think her admonition was don't reopen wounds. Don't go down the path of, well, I did this, or I could have done that, because you open the door for more anger or emotion or whatever. I think her point was keep it simple, stupid, and just say, hey, I think the world of you. We're closing in 5 days. I want to check in on you and make sure everything's okay. And I actually I like that approach, because
the initial
we want to say more. We want to cover more things. It's human nature, but sometimes it backfires because you just open more doors for them to start marching through emotion. Go ahead, Parker.
that was the initial reaction was, I'm not a killer, but don't push me type of it initially, you know what I mean? But really what it was is I decided, okay, cooler heads prevail always. You'll get more done with sugar than you will with salt. And so I sat down and because I was thinking in my head, is there anything that I did wrong in this process? I went back, I read all the emails, all the communication, all the text messages. I record some of my phone calls when I talk to clients, so I listen to those. Then I wrote down the whole process from start to finish, how things went. What I realized in the process is I was just talking about all the W's, and I wasn't really addressing any of his concerns. And the reality is no matter how good I did or how bad I did or whatever the case was, it doesn't change the fact that the guy's still pissed off. And so the best thing that I can do in that process is just kind of let it lie initially and then go back with some sort of response. James, I liked your response and I like Sue's response too, of just saying, hey, look, I've tried to insulate you through this process. I'm sorry if there was miscommunication. As I tried to do my job in allowing you to kind of live your life while I took care of this, big decision for you. So if there's anything I can do to help move the process along, I'd love to help.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
please.
chime in on this, and we got to wrap up. But I think that's the point, Parker, right? The things that you just said, very much human nature, very much sincere. But as I was listening to you and trying to play devil's advocate, I could very easily come back and say, bull crap, you didn't do this, you didn't do, right? But it's kind of hard for me to do that when all you say is, I have all the respect in the world for you. I'm concerned about you, want to make sure that you're happy and that you're still, if there's anything I can do prior to us closing. Because you open up those other doors, and I'm just telling you, if they're still emotionally charged, they're going to walk through them again. They're going to walk through them again. You're back to the same thing. So, all right, listen, I hope this was useful for you guys. It's actually one of the areas that I think is so under practiced, thought through in our profession, is keeping it professional, good communication skills, preparation, thanks, Steve, and being the pro. And by the pro, I don't mean like I'm gaming somebody. Pro means I'm actually good at my craft. I believe in what I do. I believe I do a good job. And I'm not going to let somebody else overreacting emotionally take me off my game. Right. And that's actually going to have some benefit for you, the person who is reacting emotionally. And guess what? This isn't just true in real estate, guys. It's true in relationships. So hopefully it had more benefit than just contracts and negotiations today. You guys are great. I hope you have a great Monday and the rest of the week. And we'll chat with you soon.
Thank you.